catch all the bad guys.
I believe I've been contacted by the Mercedes killer.
Why is he just waiting there?
I got a letter from my new pen pal.
What kinds of things is he saying?
You failed.
This guy's really trying to get into your head, isn't he?
Having bad thoughts, detective.
Right!
I'm always awake.
I mean, trust Stephen King to turn the jingle from an ice cream van into an ominous, terrifying thing. What did you see in this book?
Well, when Stephen first sent me The Galleys for Mr. Mercedes before it came out, I was thrilled, number one. Number two, when I read it, he had never written a detective novel, number one. And he also, I found it fascinating that Stephen was writing this time about the monsters inside the people as opposed to the monsters outside the people. You know, no one writes better who's hiding under your bed and those phantom fears we all share. But this was about the people. So when we were lucky enough to get to make the show, I felt that the show needed to focus on the characters. And when I was lucky enough to get this cast that you see before you, who are exceptional, and get the performances that they all delivered, we were able to achieve that and really frame a show both stylistically, artistically, in every way about the people and the struggles they have to live these complicated lives.
Tell me about Bill Hodges, because he's not quite as whiter than white as a detective as you might imagine.
Well, he's a retired detective for a start, which irritates him no end, because his purpose in life has become a little bit blurred. And apparently there's quite a history in real life of people, particularly detectives, who are retired, have taken their own life. So he's in a very bad place, stuck in a rut, and he can't shake this thing that had happened 2 or 3 years prior to that, where he had not been able to nail this guy who had slaughtered all these people on purpose. In the meantime, he's gone, as in a lot of these cases, his family was sacrificed for his job, and now his job is gone. But the whole thing that was interesting about this is that it's really following the consequences. And so somebody like Bill, we can see the consequences of his obsession with his own job. We can see how he can be quite an irascible sort of a character. He can drive people away from him, but there's a kind of a fundamental decency that he's trying to maintain, and it just irks him that the world is allowing this thing to pass not so much unavenged, but unrecognized, you know what I mean? And there's been no line drawn underneath it. It was all about that kind of little inner conflict that's going on with everybody, where we can be monsters and kind of angels all in the one package.
Yeah, following on from what Brendan was just saying about the angels and the monsters within everyone, the same goes in the other way for Brady, that he's not just a cut-out monster, that he is a troubled victim in many ways of his life, of his upbringing, and that he's troubled and disturbed. And I think you get that with the book, and hopefully we went some way to expanding upon that as well.
They are mother and son, they're roommates, they're best friends, and for Deb, they're lovers. It's an incestuous relationship. My character is medicated to the point of, she gets up in the morning and pours herself a glass of vodka. So I guess somewhere that deadens the reality of what she's doing, and she's not a particularly bright person. She's not a particularly strong person, but she's an extremely vulnerable person, and not someone who can survive in this world. In her situation financially, her husband's gone, a younger son is gone, and she has this troubled son that she sees as her everything, so it's horrific, and but you can't take your eyes off the relationship in some weird way. It's kind of like, it's almost more scary than anything that happens in the show.
It's also, if I may, the old argument of nature versus nurture. And I think one of the things that David Kelly brilliantly brought to the pilot and then the rest of the first season was empathy for all these complicated, screwed up people, that we all are in our own ways. And hopefully we don't live the drama that these people, the obstacle course that these people are going through in our show. Hopefully that's not our story. But certainly you can understand that all these people are trapped and struggling to be the best people they can be.
Holland, I think Ida's empathy for her next-door neighbor, Bill, is vast, considering...
Well, I think that's sort of the point of her being in this story, is that she is a sort of wholesome, this is a stretch for me, but she's sort of a wholesome corner of his life. She's a neighbor. She doesn't know him well. They've known him distantly over the years, and she sees this downward spiral after his retirement, and she tries to keep tabs on him rather intrusively sometimes. But I think he feels that her caring for him is just a human caring and empathy and wanting to support him. And so he allows her to an extent. And I think she is a safe haven for him of sorts and someone he can talk to occasionally. I mean, it's all at a certain distance, but it seems to be a color that's needed.